Hello and welcome to the BA Knowledge Share. In this episode, I cover communicating illustration results task, which is chapter 4, and it is one of the tasks within the elicitation chapter of the BAPOC guide. That being said, without further ado, let's get started. So the purpose behind communicating business analysis information is to have a shared understanding of business analysis information. And you want to make sure as a business analyst that everyone's on the same page. So business analysts must communicate appropriate information to stakeholders at the right time and in formats that meet their needs. Consideration is given to expressing the information in language, tone, and style that is appropriate to the audience. Some of the elements within this task are determine objective and format of communication business analysis information packages that may be prepared for a number of reasons, including but not limited to communication requirements and designs to stakeholders, early assessment of quality and planning, evaluation of possible alternatives, formal reviews and approvals, inputs to solution design, conformance to contractual and regulatory obligations, and maintenance for reuse. Possible forms for packages may include formal documentation, informal documentation, and presentations. And within formal documentation, you have text, matrices, or diagrams. And within informal documentation, you may have text, diagrams, or matrices that are used during a change but are not part of a formal organizational process. The second element is communicate business analysis package. So the purpose of communicating the business analysis package is to provide stakeholders with the appropriate level of detail about the change so they can understand the information it contains. Stakeholders are given the opportunity to review the package, ask questions about the information, and raise any new concerns they may have. Selecting the appropriate communication platform is also important. Common communication platforms include group collaboration, used to communicate the package to a group of relevant stakeholders at the same time. It allows immediate discussion about the information and related issues. Individual collaboration, which is used to communicate the package to a single stakeholder at a time. It can be used to gain individual understanding of the information when a group setting is not feasible, most productive, or going to yield best results. The third communication business package is email or other nonverbal methods used to communicate the package when there is a high maturity level of information that will need little or no verbal explanation to support it. So many a times we get into this loop of sending out emails and emails coming back and forth. So this is kind of a good guide to give you a sense of when to send an email versus when to kind of have a group collaboration versus individual collaboration. So you may kind of establish your own rules of thumb. That is, if you receive, I'd say, 2 emails back from your stakeholders that need in-depth explanation, stop, pick up the phone, call your stakeholder, and kind of resolve the issue then and there. So moving on, guidelines and tools here used are business analysis approach. This was part of chapter 3. Describes how various types of information will be disseminated rather than what will be disseminated. It describes the level of detail and formality required, frequency of the communications, and how communications could be affected by the number of geographic dispersion of stakeholders. Information management approach helps determine how business analysis information will be packaged and communicated to the stakeholders. Some of the techniques used here are interviews, reviews, workshops, and some of the stakeholders here are end user, customer, domain subject matter expert, implementation subject matter expert, tester, and any stakeholder. So that being said, let's look at it from the eyes of Amanda, who has been assigned to a project as a business analyst to move a brick and mortar restaurant to an online restaurant due to COVID regulations. So what would she do in this task? One is she would determine objectives and format of the communication business analysis information packages. She would kind of determine the objectives and format of communication. So in this case, she decides, well, she would send out an email once a week offering statuses. She would then send out emails with a link to her requirements document after she's walked through the requirements as a whole. So she kind of thinks through how should she communicate um, the elicitation results to the customer, and she's found a flow to do so. Communicate business analysis package. She would um, communicate the business analysis package by um, group collaboration. She thinks that that's the best way to gain sort of confirmation that her requirements make sense. Um, so that's the technique she uses. She uses the business analysis approach that she builds as part of the planning and monitoring kind of knowledge area. Then she uses the information management approach to disseminate to decide how she would disseminate her information. She kind of utilizes mostly workshops and reviews to um, basically communicate with the stakeholders. Every now and then she'll use interviews if something doesn't make sense. Her stakeholders she uses are the end user, the customer, the domain subject matter expert, the implementation SME, the tester, and any other stakeholders that she feels she needs to include. In this case, she wants to include the sponsor and the project manager as well. So that being said, this ends the communication part of the solicitation chapter. So if you do find value in this episode or in these videos, please do consider subscribing to this channel, and also consider visiting our website, beknowledgeshare.com, to get access to additional business analysis materials. So that being said, until next time, thank you.